Hey there, welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, he's a staple on the club circuit and drops in on Rock 95's birthday bash now and again. David Wilcox will be in town March 10th. We get caught up with him beforehand. A lot of talk about moving the Barrie Farmers Market from City Hall to the Barrie Bus Terminal building downtown. Everyone seems to like the plan, except those who run the farmers market. We find out why. We got our regular Barrie Colts update. They've clinched a playoff spot, you know. And we chat with Mayor Alex Nutall about his first 100 days in office. But first, International Women's Day is approaching. Are we making progress toward gender equality? What's getting in the way? And how will we mark the day in Barrie? Teresa MacLennan joins us from the Barrie Women and Children's Shelter. Sounds like we're making some headway, Teresa, but it also seems like it's painstakingly slow.
Women still, in the corporate world especially, do not make parity in terms of wages of men doing the same job. We do see that, unfortunately, here in our own local city, we don't have as much representation of women on city council and in politics in general. That is the work that we need to continue to do so that all women have equal opportunity, they are paid for equal work, and so we can truly say that we have achieved and we're there. We are very thankful that there's women who continue to use their voice, and there are also men in our community who walk alongside us, who partner with us, who really want gender equity as well. And we are always excited every year to host International Women's Day on March the 8th.
Before we get into that, I want to harken back to what you said about representation on city council, for instance. Mm-hmm. Not that many women on there. We don't often get a lot of women candidates. Mm-hmm. What's behind that? Is there something that's stopping them from stepping forward?
I think in the city of Barrie in particular, and in many cities, there is a historical pattern, I'll call it, where men typically sit in certain roles. And I would say that politics is one of those roles. Women may be unsure about how they go about even deciding to run for local politics. What we're seeing now is that women politicians are encouraging, educating, and supporting other women to consider running. That is a great first step. We would really love our city to make a commitment to how do we build equity in terms of our city council, because the voices, equal voices of men and women, are equally important. We are certainly not saying that there needs to be more women than men. We would just like to have equality there. We would like to create opportunities where women learn about that work, learn how do I become that, and they are supported and have the opportunity to apply and be successful. There are still far greater male leaders in all sectors than there are women. We've been very fortunate here in the city of Barrie. We have seen now two CEOs of our local hospital. We have had a female chief of police. So that is great to see, and we just want to encourage that to continue moving forward.
While we are still striving to reach that equality, what can women be doing to make sure that they still have a voice, that they still have a say in the decision-making that is happening in the city?
That's such a great question. And so we, at the Women and Children's Shelter, of course, we support women who've experienced violence. What we do, which is what I hope is going to be an encouragement to everyone in our city, is that we encourage women to use their voice, to participate, to ask questions, and not be afraid of what the outcomes will be. If we are doing good work, if we are saying the right things, we can't lose.
Has to start somewhere. And sometimes you need a helping hand with that. So where can somebody turn? Where can women turn to get some advice, to get some guidance to help these kinds of things move forward?
Well, absolutely. Our agency supports women and children who've experienced any kind of violence. So we are a great place to start. We have a crisis line that's 24 hours a day, 728-2544. If any woman is looking for some advice or that we can lead her in the right direction about who to speak with, we are a good place to start. We have a very active Women's Advocacy Council. That is a group of women, survivors, women with lived experience businesswomen, educators who are using their voice in very productive ways in terms of making change happen. We would connect any woman who was looking to advocate for change. We would connect her in with that Women's Advocacy Council as well.
It's an uphill climb, and one of the steps in that uphill climb is on March 8th when you have two events.
We love International Women's Day. So it is March the 8th, Wednesday this year, and we hold two events. So we have a Women's Empowerment Luncheon. We invite women in our community to come out, enjoy a very gourmet meal. There will be raffles, prizes, and we are very blessed that we have an incredible guest speaker in Jane Pritchard this year. So Jane is going to be coming out speaking about her experience of having breast cancer, her work in media, a very long career, and we're just going to sit down and have a conversation with Jane. And so it is going to be a great event. You can visit our website, which is barrieshelter.com. The tickets are $75, and of course that's the gourmet lunch and the raffle, the auctions. We've got vendor tables who are coming and selling their wares, and you get to sit down and listen to this great conversation with Jane Pritchard. That is from 11 to 1 on March the 8th, and then later on in the day, we march through the streets of downtown Barrie. And we invite women, men, children, families, businesses, agencies, organizations to come and let's walk together. So we are meeting at the Barrie City Hall Rotunda. If you're there about 4:45, that would be great. We're going to have some great music to get us pumped up as we walk through the streets of Barrie. Of course, Barrie Police is going to guide us through the streets so that we are safe. We also have an accessible route. We would love to see everyone come out and walk with us. We're going to be loud. We're going to be proud. We're going to make a lot of noise. And we just would love for our community to come out and walk with us.
Thanks for the heads up on all of this. Thanks for the legwork you're doing, and thanks for everything else you're doing to help women in our community and children.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate all of your support.
Teresa MacLennan is Executive Director of the Women and Children Shelter in Barrie. For more on International Women's Day events in the city, the website is barrieshelter.com. Riverboat Fantasy, Do the Bearcat, Lay in Pipe. David Wilcox gets regular airplay on Rock 95 and makes an appearance this month at the Ranch 2.0. Will you hear those tunes? That depends, as Wilcox explains in this chat with Rock 95's Ben McCully about his career and the guy he credits for getting him where he is today.
I wanted to take you back to near the beginning of your career. I thought it was appropriate with this past year losing Ian Tyson. I know that you started with his band, and I thought you might want to share some thoughts or some memories from that time period.
Well, I owe Ian a debt I can never repay. He gave me my first real chance in the music business. I went from playing in my mother's basement in North York to touring internationally with Ian and Sylvia, and I replaced a great guitar player, Amos Garrett. I was right around the time I turned 21, and I love Ian and Sylvia, and like I say, they opened the door. They taught me so much about music and professionalism and life, so I love the guy.
Back to you here in 2023. How are you with titles like legend and icon and things like that?
It doesn't mean that much. I mean, it's nice. I'd rather think people say positive things. But, at the end of the day, like most artists, when you start out, people say negative things, like this guy's no good, it's weird, whatever. And maybe I wasn't at times. But the thing is, later on, they say that stuff. It's all stuff people say,
Well, something you're probably more used to hearing is the categorization of singer-songwriter, a boss on the guitar, and I would dare say kind of a third title, and that is you've carved out your own space in the canon of rock and roll with those kind of tongue-in-cheek, edgy, sometimes raunchy, fun songs. Your songs individually are characters. Was that just your own authentic self coming through in songwriting, or how much of a conscious effort did you put into, I'm going to make a different song, a little fun song?
It's all following my heart. just doing what I really wanted to do. I did notice the songs changed, though, Ben, when first I was playing to audiences that had no idea who I was. I just go into a bar and you play, right? You got no records, no airplay, no nothing. And the thing is, I had to have songs that you could get in the middle of the song and still feel like you were part of it, like a song like Bump Up Ahead or something like that, where if let's start in the middle, you can still feel what it's about. Later on, I could do songs that had a sort of an evolving story, like Lay and Pipe or something like that, where there's a sort of a progression in the verses, So I noticed that. But I tried to do what I want to do,
Did you run into a lot of instances of button heads with radio stations, record companies, the powers that be in the music business with songs that were of that edgy nature? Like, how many times did you have to fight, like, oh, we can't play this because it's talking about sex, David?
It's a funny thing. Being a little different, which I think I am, is a curse in the beginning, but it's a blessing later on. Because people will go to that particular artist, whoever, me or anybody, who has something a little individual, I mean, my first album, the one with Hypnotizing Boogie, Bearcat, and those songs on it, it took 2 years to sell. We recorded it 2 years before any label would release it. So there was some resistance. But as I say, it's turned into a good thing. Because people, if they want to see what we do, they come and see our band. It's not just a generic band that you can go and see, blah, blah, blah.
Do you have a kind of a funny sense of, wow, the world's changed when you think of some of the pop songs that are being put out today and some of the content, and think of the battles that you had back in the day with your songs, and that was more of an artistic double meaning, but now they hit you over the head with some of the salacious content? Are you like, things have changed quite a little bit?
They've changed enormously, and part of it is the demise of record companies, which were a filtration system, good or bad. Now we have the internet, so, I mean, you can go on the internet and do or say or sing virtually anything, right?
Do you feel disrespected as a guitarist, or do you feel you get enough due? Because when people think of David Wilcox, the casual fan might hear on the radio and be like, he's got those fun songs. But you're an epic guitar playing guy, if I dare say so. Do you think you get enough due instrumentally?
Well, thank you. I knew a wise old guy who's passed away, and he used to say, there's you get what you want, then there's you get what you need, and then there's you get what you get. And I'm very happy with what I've gotten. I don't feel disrespected or anything like that. People come to our gigs, our band has a ball playing for different audiences. And we don't use a set list, by the way. We just go and play, we'd look at the audience and they might want to hear this next, So I've got it pretty good. I have no complaints.
If someone's going to come for the first time, maybe it's a date, maybe it's someone in a group of friends, and they're like, yeah, I've heard some David Wilcox. How would you describe your experience to someone who's never seen it before? They've never had a David Wilcox experience. What would they be in for?
Well, I tell them that it's a party band. It's fun. It's meant to be a fun evening. And hopefully we'll take you up a bit, down a bit, surprise you a little bit, something maybe familiar, maybe not. But it's meant to be a party experience.
We cannot wait to see what you've got in store for us at the ranch.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Wilcox stops in at the Ranch 2.0 on March 10th. You never know who else might show up. I saw him at a club in Toronto once, and George Thorogood popped in. No promises, but you never know. Have you been to the Barrie Farmers Market? Happens every Saturday morning, either inside City Hall or in the square in the street outside. But there's talk of moving it to the downtown transit terminal when that operation moves to Allendale, which many think is a great idea. But the market's Jamie Grant begs to differ. She's with Barrie 360's Ian McCully.
A little bit about a history of the Barrie Farmers Market. What anniversary is coming up?
It will be the 177th year this year coming up, so we're pretty excited about that.
And you operate at City Hall, summer outdoors, in the Rotunda, in the wintertime indoors. One thing you said before that makes that this is a real farmers market. What do you mean by that?
means we're a true farmer's market. A true farmer's market means that everyone that is there that is selling something has either produced it, farmed it, raised it, or made it with their own hands. So they didn't buy it somewhere and resell it. It's a true farmer's market, which is very rare in this day and age.
And how many vendors do you have, or does it vary from weekend to weekend, or?
Well, because we do follow the true farmers market, that does happen because in the springtime, you're not going to have near as many farmers. You're going to have more artisans that will be there. And as the summer progresses, you end up with more farmers because the harvests come in. But we do fluctuate between about 50 to 85 vendors throughout that time period.
And what is your catchment area in terms of where the vendors come from?
They almost exclusively come from Simcoe County. So everything that's being brought to you is being brought to you very locally. So
this is homegrown by local.
Absolutely. It's everything local.
Now, one of the things about the farmers market did last year with money from the city of Barrie was I believe you had some pop-up markets, so to speak. Mm-hmm. What were those, and what was the idea behind that?
We were trying to research what people were looking for. Were they looking for different days? Were they looking for different availability? And more so just to market the market was what our goal was at that time. And it worked fantastically. There were so many people that were not aware of what was just at their doorstep and within the city limits that they could attend. So it was very successful for us.
Obviously, the hope is that then they have already come back and have visited the market that's there on Saturdays.
That's correct. So that exposure did increase our daily counts for sure.
Are you looking to do it again this summer if you get the funding?
We would love the opportunity. If council does choose to participate in that would be fantastic.
Now, you sent a letter to City Council with regards to Market Square that the city has proposed for the current bus terminal once the bus terminal moves to the Allendale GO station. In that letter, you indicated that the preference of the farmers market, I guess the board, would be to remain at the rotunda as opposed to having a 10,000 square foot facility. Why is that?
Well, there were a lot of factors that went into that decision. We have a new board. So our board is a board of volunteers, of farmers, and they reflected upon the evolution of this project. And as it evolved, it became very clear that neither the city nor the farmers market really had the funding in place to do this. So part of the reason we decided, or a large part of that, was we didn't want to burden the taxpayers with that type of project.
Bigger is better, or are you content? I know you're looking for more space.
We are looking for more space, but if you look at successful farmers markets around the globe, these are small, humble, cozy places to be. They're not large buildings. We just need a safe place to operate. We really didn't need for the taxpayers or for anyone to invest such a huge amount of money into something that really wasn't necessary.
Of course, the city has talked about Market Square. I know it would be like a St. Lawrence Market in Toronto that would operate, as opposed, in conjunction with the farmers market. You had concerns about that?
I do. Not just exclusively as me, myself. I am speaking for a very large group here. But there's a difference between a true farmer's market and a public market. A public market means a reseller's market, which means they are not making those things themselves. That is a direct competition to a true farmer's market. And putting those two things together don't necessarily benefit the farmer's market.
I don't want you to spill the beans, but are there going to be any sort of celebratory events taking place over the year, through this 2023 to acknowledge 177 years?
Absolutely. May 6th will be the date that we are going to celebrate our 177th birthday. And we are partnering actually with the Barrie Police Service and Barrie Public Library to host a wellness event to showcase the many, many resources we have in Barrie that are all local.
So keep an ear to the ground and to Barrie 360 for more information.
Absolutely.
And if people want to take in the farmers market who've never been there, what are the hours of operation and when are you open?
We're open every Saturday from 8 until 12, and we operate out of City Hall.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Jamie Grant is Marketing and Operations Manager for the Barrie Farmers Market. What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie has to offer and more. We've covered a lot of ground since we began last July, introduced you to Canadian singer-songwriter Elijah Woods, met 8-year-old Morgan Mansfield, who's trying to save the monarch butterfly, and helped a local group find storage space for items collected to help Ukrainian refugees who have made the Barrie area their new home. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, the Barrie Colts will be in the OHL playoffs, and Alex Nutall has made it through his first 100 days as mayor. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team, keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's cool to care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. The Barrie Colts have clinched a playoff spot and are battling with North Bay for first place in the OHL Central Division. Barrie 360's Will Conkin looks back with Colts broadcaster Gene Pereira on what was a record-setting week for defenseman Brant Clark and coach Marty Williamson.
Gene, maybe describe the moment for us and maybe Williamson's overall journey with the club.
Yeah, I think obviously it was a big night for Marty, and it's a special night, and you could see it on the ground, his face, and it means a lot to him, especially having passed Dale Hawerchuk and just having developed that relationship in that short time between them. When I talked to Marty initially, I think the idea was that he's hired back on the Colts as a consultant with the team, is that he'd eventually step behind the bench with Dale as head coach and him as an assistant. And then unfortunately Dale got sick and passed away, and it was tough for everybody in the organization, including Marty. So I think, just being able to, that Dale held the mark, and not only that, but Dale really encouraged him. He knew Marty was going to step behind the bench and likely, and just encourage him to carry on the organization. They both had that same passion. So, it was a real special night for Marty. Just a quick story here. I remember the first his introductory press conference back in 2004, and with then owner Mark Stubbs, and it's just a matter of where the owner was kind of saying, okay, we're going to play this exciting brand of hockey, and if we have to win 8-7, if we have to win 7-6, we'll do that. We'll give some excitement for the fans. And you could see by the look on Marty's face that, he was going to take a win any way he can, but he'd much prefer the 2-1, 3-2 better defensive play, wins. And, Marty wasn't afraid to kind of step forward and say that, and that's been his calling card, has been more the defensive, and really you see that with this team this year. The turnaround has been their improved defensive play, and that's why they're winning hockey games.
And I guess that wasn't all. Brant Clark reached a milestone as well, now holds the franchise scoring record for defensemen.
Yeah, it's incredible that, he did it in less than 3 seasons. I mean, when you look back and, obviously with the pandemic, they had the year off. He went over and played in Europe for a bit, and, the amount of time, and then even last year he had that lengthy suspension in the second half and then got injured and missed the rest of the year. So, he a little time, he passed Lucius Sato, who was a very popular player then, but obviously Clark, the more talented player of the two, and much more skilled player. And, Clark's just one of those elite players and special players that you have come through that makes junior hockey so great. When you see, players young and talented like him, you just know that they're going to be big at the next level. And, every night he does something special. And, to see him and talking to Brant, he remembers coming into the rink at the first time, which was then the Barrie Molson Center. It's now the Saddle Arena, but he remembers stepping in and, looking up at those rafters. And, he said, you always kind of kid to yourself, like when he looked at the top defenseman and he saw Luch Nasato's name in scoring, he said he wanted to put his name there, and he certainly did it. It meant a lot to him, and, it's not easy for a young player like him who wanted to be in Los Angeles to stay in Los Angeles with the Kings. That was his dream, to play in the NHL, and you get sent back down. You win a gold medal with Canada. That was special, but Brant, there's a reason why he wears the C for captain, and he hasn't missed a beat back in Barrie. Sometimes players can take a bit of time just to kind of get over that demotion, but he's been focused since day one and playing outstanding hockey.
It's been just a fun season to watch, and a lot of good for this group, this entire campaign. And now they're actually creeping up closer to North Bay.
Yeah, they obviously lost 5 or 6 in the head-to-head battles, but they've managed to kind of, keep the pressure on. This outstanding run really since the beginning of December. And they've got it down to 1 point. It's been like a bit cat and mouse, where it seems like every time Barrie gets close, North Bay kind of pulls away a bit, but then the Colts, just that determination to keep winning hockey games, keeping the foot on the pedal and keeping the pressure on North Bay. And while the two teams don't meet, it's going to be an interesting run here over these last 11 games, as they finish out the stretch drive. And, that's the focus for them. Obviously, they still want that top spot in the division and lock up second place in the conference, which would, give them home ice in a potential second-round match against the Battalion. So that would be big. But, again, I think it's just the fact that, they've lost those head-to-head games, and sometimes you go into a bit of a tailspin after those losses. But, Barrie's got right back to work, and that's what's kind of been impressive about this club, is they just keep putting the pedal down, and you think, okay, they lose out to North Bay at home, and it's a big loss, but they rebound quickly, and it kind of speaks to the character that's in that room right now.
Been a busy first 100 days for Alex Nutall as mayor of Barrie, a lot of it taken up by budget discussions and charting a course for the next 4 years. Ian McClennan had a chance to sit down with the mayor to discuss the budget further, why there will be some kind of increase despite what many remember as being a zero increase pledge during the election campaign. Potholes are also top of mind.
I know when the first 100 days is focused a lot, here especially in the United States, or, a prime minister in Canada or president of the U.S., but 100 days, what's the significance there?
Well, I think, first of all, it's you get in, you're elected, and then you take, your oath of office, and then start working with all of the public service. And so I think one of the neatest things about the first 100 days is kind of that getting to know, that warming up between those who've been elected to be on the board of directors for the city and the public service. And so it's been really successful so far. I think that'll continue. But certainly it's a very important time to set the tone for the 4-year term. And
you've got council background. Does that make the transition a little easier?
Well, I think it has, Ian. As I look at it going forward, there's obviously been some changes since I last sat on council. I left council for federal office in 2014. So 8 years is a long time, and obviously it's not going to be exactly the same. But a lot of the processes are consistent, and it was a matter of getting caught up and then making sure that we can take that vision that the city has certainly invested in and make sure it starts being put into fruition.
Well, for you and council, both current new members as well, right into the feet into the fire with a budget. Where are we at right now? Because your service partners still have to present their budget. It's a little different than has been done previous years. Why? What was before, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, in previous years, what happened was everything was sort of dealt with either in one or two nights. The reason we've changed the process here is there's things that City Hall can control directly, and then there's things that we can't. And so the things that we're able to control directly are the city operations budget. So, that's the salaries and benefits and gas costs and all of those types of items, your rec centers. City Hall has direct control over that. That's being passed already at a 0%, which is consistent with what I was committing to during the election. The second part of it is the capital budget. So the capital budget is what are we going to invest in terms of building things and repairing roads, those types of items. So we've actually approved that side of the budget as well. With that is a 1%. DERF, which is essentially the renewal fund that we go to the public with each and every year.
Is that a carryover from previous councils too?
Yes, it is. Is actually something that we approved, I think, back in 2013 or 14, and then it was put into practice in about 2015-16. And so it's something that I've supported a long time because, you drive around the city, there are roads that are in really rough condition. And this is how we make sure those roads are fixed and that we actually get our infrastructure built. And so that's all dealt with during the capital plan. And to note, one of the major items this year that's approved in the capital plan is the construction of Bryan Drive. It's been a long time coming. And so getting it all the way from ESSA up to over by Mapleview, where it currently ends, is incredibly important.
Which will ease maybe some of that gridlock that still exists.
Absolutely. Harvey Road helped for sure.
Yeah.
But the north-south there is very difficult.
So we're waiting to hear. We know some of the numbers. We're not going to go in lot right now, but the police, the library, the county of Simcoe, conservation authorities, it would be 3.07% if we had the current.
So I think that the counties actually revised their budget down. Okay. So I don't have a final number yet. The secondary item that we're dealing with is the Bill 23 and Bill 109, which the provincial government have moved, have wide-ranging impacts on how municipalities do planning and basically run the cities. There's some impacts with regards to the conservation authorities there. And so we have to determine over the next few months what services we're going to continue to do with the Conservation Authority, what services we're going to bring in-house, and what things just aren't going to be done anymore.
In your campaign, you headlined freeze taxes. I think you said hold the line on municipal taxes. Clarify, though, for me, for the probably going, well, wait a minute, my property taxes are going to go up this year, but you said freeze taxes as your headline. How do you juxtapose that?
So, look, I think there's two pieces to it. First of all, what my commitment was during the election was to actually continue with the DERF. Okay, so the Dedicated Infrastructure Renewal Fund, I said I'm going to raise it. I'm actually not going to reduce it. Previous councils have reduced it, and the problem with that is that you end up with roads that just don't get fixed, right? And we hear that around the city. You hear and see that around the city as well. And so on the capital side, my commitment was to actually increase, not decrease. On the operating side, my commitment was that we would have a 0% to City Hall. I said it over and over and over again, right? And so that's what we've done. We've delivered a 0% operations budget for City Hall. What we don't have control over, and there's been numerous articles written about this, is when the police board, for instance, and they set their budget back in September. It was a previous police board or previous mayor that approved it. They are actually giving us an invoice, not giving us a request for money.
Some will say, well, do you have to pay that bill, or can you send them back to the drawing board? But how many times can you do that?
Yeah, so we could say no, and then it would go to a commission, and then the commission would make a determination which takes it all outside of the city of Barrie. And there hasn't been a very good track record of getting a better deal. In fact, I think it's probably been the opposite.
So it's like baseball arbitration.
It is like arbitration. It's exactly what it is, actually. And so that's the police side. On the county side, I look at it and go, that they've got a lot of services they're delivering for the city of Barrie. We have a lot of work to do on social services, and I know this is something that's very close to your heart and it's very close to mine. And it's the same. The province mandates that the Barrie Police deliver the policing services and the county deliver all the social services, and the city of Barrie pays for it.
Would it be easier for would it make a difference if the city had more control over some of the things the county now is in charge of?
Well, I think that's a conversation that we need to continue to have. You know, I've been making requests with regards to long-term care. You know, there's no reason why we should be operating 0 long-term care beds here in the city of Barrie, but paying, you know, $3 million or whatever it is a year for that service. It's a little ridiculous when you think about it. Folks growing up here, living around their family, but then they have to go to Midland or Penetang or Orillia to live and be away from their family. And, you know, these folks have contributed to the city of Barrie and to the county of Simcoe for years and years and years and years, but then get displaced. And so that's an item, an area where we need to really focus on moving forward with a Barrie plan. And I've actually been working with former Deputy Mayor Barrie Ward on trying to help with that as well. So hopefully working together, we'll be able to deliver some strong results.
And finally, we did you touched on roads and Bryan Drive, but potholes, I mean, people hit them sometimes quite severely. They may probably curse the pothole and maybe the mayor too, who knows? You did talk about a pothole hotline.
So pieces of it actually are already set up. We're finishing out the final pieces of that. But for instance, the ability to just any time of day call in is there. Some of it goes to voicemail after certain hours, etc., which is probably expected. And we will continue to try to make it easier and easier for folks to be able to deliver that message to us. I think it's also really important as we're looking at what we're doing with the city in terms of renewal of roads, that we continue to have a program that is proactive, not just reactive. You know, it's one thing a citizen going over a pothole and calling it in or putting something online, but, you know, we as a city need to figure out how we use all of those vehicles that are driving around the city each and every day to determine where the potholes exist so that we can proactively go and deal with them, not wait for somebody's car to get bust up before a call comes in. And so that's another piece to it that, you know, wasn't really part of the election platform, but something that I'm realizing, you know, maybe being able to use that big data that's created by all of our vehicles going around the city each and every day to try to come up with a better, more proactive program.
Thanks very much, Mayor Nutall.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input and to Matt Ladder for his technical expertise. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Facebook and Twitter at Barrie360 and on our website, Barrie360.com. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.